every couple of years or so, I guess it's turned out I like to take a look back and see where we've been over the years, and that's what we're looking at here. So if we look at how long has this been? 16 years we've been doing this, or is that 15 years, I guess, now? 2020 will be our 16th year. I was listening to a chat the other day, and people, I guess, aren't familiar with everything we've been doing over the years. And I guess if somebody's sort of YouTube centric, or they're just jumped online and they're just following feeds and they're not paying attention to archives or paying attention to older stuff, then you might not catch all the stuff that's been going on. So in an effort to let people know, and then in an effort to archive it all, just to see what else has been going on, I think it was an interesting effort. And then as the project evolved, I started to see some patterns in our overall philosophies and where we've been going. So that's what we're going to take a look at. So if we fill in all those years, that's what it looks like to have 15 years worth of a project. Part of traveling for SHOT Show in Florida and in NRA Show in Charlotte. And oh, you know what I didn't put on here is the outdoor media show. We started doing a lot of traveling in 2010. So we also went to the outdoor media show, which is up in Dead Horse's neck of the woods in Salt Lake. I used to be up in Salt Lake City. So we had already toured Volter. Volter is a freaking awesome company. It's Abrams Aviation. They have stuff that's outside of our solar system. They vibration weld. They've created so many cool things. It's awesome. So we knew Eric, and we had a chance to tour the Volter facility 3 times now over the years. The guys who worked at the shop had toured Fort Knox's facilities over the years, and we had that opportunity to get invited out to Front Sight and tour that. So that got our teeth, how they say, that got us the taste for it. And when we traveled in 2009 and 10, we did as much as we could to coordinate factory tours. So it's North American Arms, Silencer Co. When we went out with Haas in 2012, that was primarily, it was called Friends, Family, and Firearms, and it was manufacturers, museums, and I forgot what the other word was. But we basically, our goal was to check out manufacturers. My actual goal was to go to BC Engineering. That was the reason I decided to take the trip. But Haas was willing to go. We ended up getting an invite to Barrett, one of the very few people to have a tour of the Barrett factory, thanks to James Yeager. Who else can suck it? Masterpiece Arms, Nighthawk, Steyr, SOE, Tromix, all of those were on that trip. Later we've toured Rifle Dynamics, Laser Light, Hornady Factory, and then Bannerman. So we've got lots of factory tours, and putting that in there mainly to I mean, those are neat, and they give you some insight, but overall they help us get an idea of the scale of the industry. Barrett and Kaiser, for example, couldn't be farther away from each other on the spectrum, but both in our industry. And you know, we share what we can from these tours. I'm not the best videographer or whatever, but you know, hopefully our overall project, you know, incorporates the knowledge we've gleaned from seeing the operations and knowing the people to different levels that run these companies, and the contacts and stuff. And again, because of the way we've done this, we're about to talk about funding and stuff here in a minute too. None of this has been, nobody owes us nothing, and we don't owe anybody else nothing. So this has all been in a different relationship. And I like to think that, you know, if no one ever talks to a company except for some sort of a transaction, then that's a loss. So at some of these were an intentional, let's talk and not have a transaction take place. Let's simply share what you're doing. So that got us into traveling. We talked about the Arms Across America tour when me and Haas drove however long it takes, 8,000 miles or something, 9,000 miles to drive to DC and back. On that trip, we hit 19 gun shops and 4 museums throughout the years. You know, we've done different efforts towards the tour. Big one in 17, getting out to the Bannerman Castle finally, and then pretty much the big one last year, the second biggest one last year, getting out to Gun Rights Policy in Chicago. For just the Gun Show Loophole tour, we're up to 32,000 miles, 200 gun shops that we visited, 33 museums, and we've covered 36 states. Nowhere near done. I like to say every time we get in the van, that'll be the Gun Show Loophole tour continued. But again, that's given us insight, and there's no relationship with anybody here other than to share what they're doing and to hopefully share the industry and the community in different ways. I'm going to throw in here media, just because this is sort of an explanation of what we've been doing over the last 15 years. And again, I never intended, I guess if you go way back to even before 2004, I don't remember the first time, some of our websites were the first websites out there. We had the first websites for Southern Arizona fishing. So there's a book published back in the day that mentions our websites, because we were literally the only online resource with pictures and information about the lakes down here. So we had been in books before, but it wasn't until 2010 that we were approached to write an article. So that was the first time I had an opportunity to write and to see what it's like being part of the publishing community, I guess, or the traditional media or the old media. And then again in 2012, because of our YouTube success, I guess, they used some of our video on Modern Marvels. And that was another insight into like mass media or traditional media, I guess. In 2014, we were brought on board twice because they redid the movie to offer props for the gun show scene in the movie 600 Miles. And again, got a even better chance to really see what it's like to make a movie. The first time they filmed it, it was the guy with Wings, and the second time, who's that guy from Wings? So one of the actors from the show Wings. And then I guess he sucks. So then they brought in a different actor, the guy from Tim Roth. They brought in Tim Roth, who eventually starred in the movie. So it's certainly interesting to see the movie side of things. It just, again, we're no experts, but to get a taste of it. I've known publishers throughout the year, so as we started to, again, think about funding, which will be the next thing here, we started to do some self-publishing with the cards. And instead of doing something like a book where you just go off and hang out at some kind of lake retreat for 6 months and come back with a book, our efforts here have been to do all these things as open as possible with interaction, so people can see the software we use and the decision-making process and which guns or which inventors to include, as well as the process with the fundraising and the campaigns and stuff to encourage and to show others what's possible and what's worked and what hasn't. So we've had some experience with media, and again, I'm not going to suggest that this is ultimate experience or anything, but it's helped. I think it helps to show how it's influenced. We saw in the early days some of the ways that the game can be played, and I know in about 2014 or something, we were raging against traditional media, and that has something to do with my tastes of traditional media and the lack of its flexibility and the lack of its effectiveness, I think, and that rage and that that's when I came out with the new media patches and stuff. That was all about let's be the new media. And I'd say over the next couple of years, I had a real letdown with new media. New media is a bunch of punks. So my initial distaste with traditional media and my souped up on how good the internet is led me to really rebel against traditional media there for a while, and I'm definitely rebounding on that. And I think the cards are a part of that, but some of the projects I've got in mind for the future, you took this timeline out into the future, some of that stuff will include some more traditional media stuff. And I can definitely see the value of some of the stuff that I don't know if I was blinded to before, just didn't regard as heavily before. And again, after a few years of seeing the lack of what new media does, not what they could do or not the potential, but what actually gets done, there's no need to abandon traditional stuff. We should enhance in traditional stuff and involve it. But again, it's put that in there to kind of show some of that influence. And then finally, we get to funding. We're capitalists, and part of this is to hopefully encourage some of the people that'll be attending the Gun Rights Policy Conference, some of the people that are out there doing valid 2A beneficial projects. I don't really care if somebody's out there doing gun reviews. Honestly, the stuff that I would have for you is not going to work. I know the recipes, I think, but I don't practice the recipes on how to make $1 million making gun videos on YouTube. So I'm not here to suggest I'm going to help anybody get rich quick. But if you're a Second Amendment project and you're looking for ideas, we started out, and you can see I kind of did this in a timeline fashion. We started out with the websites doing banner ads, USCCA, Brownells, banner ads, so Amazon links, Avant link, all that kind of stuff. And that made a living for a long time. That was all there was. Then things changed. YouTube started to pay us. When we started to travel in 2009, we got a taste of what we could do. and we started to have interest in traveling, and that was too expensive. So we got sponsors to travel. So I had some experience back in 2010 with having sponsors on board, and the benefits was money, but the disadvantages were many. And so we've got some experience there, but I don't do sponsorships anymore, so I'm not going to have ultimate experience there for anybody, but I can give you some insight. Then we had years there where we didn't have to worry about funding, and that's where YouTube was paying all the bills, and that was certainly interesting. And it's always fun to have YouTube paying more money than I made more money before, but I made a lot of money to do basically nothing there for a few years. As far as like actual product, it was just all YouTube videos. And there was a lot of money to be made, and then that ended, like I say, because of the way the world works and decisions and stuff. For a good thing though, because I think when you find easy money, you become weak, right? You get lax, and you just play that recipe, and you suckle off of whatever instructions work, and you don't create, you just emulate, you just repeat. So that got us motivated, and again, seeing all this stuff on the timeline, it might you can see how once you get to the Gun Rights Policy Conference, I lose all interest in doing YouTube stuff. If I had a level in here to talk about reviews, the number of reviews we did at like SHOT Show 2005 and 6 and 7 were like 2 or 3 of us going to SHOT Show. By 2008, 9, and 10, we had a crew of like 7 showing up, and we had 300 videos, I think, in 2010. That goes down to like 111, and if you look at just the count of videos, not just SHOT Show, there's this wave here, and then it just dies because we don't create videos for reviews and numbers anymore. And again, that has to do with over time, seeing how the industry went, seeing the reaction of what new media was actually doing with their potential, and then we started getting into the crowdfunding, both with the projects, doing the cards and the other crowdfunding projects, but also the membership type of thing with gun channels, experimenting with having a membership site, which has been a concept for internet stuff since forever. And you can see it took us till 2013 before we even entertained it. And I'm not going to suggest it's the best or even a good technique for raising funds, but I definitely have some experience with it now after 6 years. And then we've got the gear website. So we also make our own products and have our own store. And then we've got the subscription thing going with the Patreon now. So there's lots of different funding options out there we've experienced. Our experience with many of them, we have experience, with some more than others. And our goal has been and continues to be sharing this knowledge. We've got 30-something crowdfunding projects at this point. We've been doing Patreon since 2016. It's been helping support the project primarily since the last 2 years. Again, if somebody's interested in a 2A project and wants to talk about any of this stuff, one of the reasons I'm putting this out there so that you know that this is the kind of questions you can ask. So to wrap it up, this is the end picture, the 13th slide. We've been to SHOT Show 14 times. We've done 7 major tours, posted something like 8,000 videos across the different platforms. We've got 4 terabytes worth of photographs. We've been doing live chats like this one for 11 years. We've been doing this particular daily show for 850-something episodes. I like to think we have pretty serious accounts on at least 4 major social media platforms. We've been to 40-something training courses with 18 different instructors in 4 different states. I visited 203 gun shops, 33 museums, 25 factory tours, and altogether, including planes, we've traveled over 50,000 miles and hit 36 states in all this. We've been published in books and magazines. We've been in one motion picture. We've been on a cable Modern Marvels cable TV show, and we self-publish. We've worked with sponsors, which sucks. We've done our own banner ads and stuff. We've done crowdfunding and subscriptions. We have a membership system, and we build our own shit. So that's where we're at today. This is going to end up being a video tomorrow when I can figure out what all I want to say with this mass, see how long this took to talk about. But this is to let people know, like, if this is something that you want to see continue, then get on board. This is something that started in 2014 as some guys online shooting guns and posting pictures online. Where is Gary in here? Where is Dead Horse in here? Uh, Support the people that you think can blossom into something else. We didn't start 15 years ago to have a chart like this 15 years later, but this is an effort to show what we've been doing for people that might have just jumped on in the last couple of years. And I think it kind of shows why we've been efforting.
The guys and gals of gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching gunwebsites.com.